seriously as a 8-year-old. Or going on trips with Lloyd or one of her daughters. She loved the cabin, and she would always pull people water skiing, tubing, surfboarding, and one of her favorite Mona quotes came out of that is when one kid came off the tube or off the surfboard and was injured, and she looked at him and said, "If you're gonna die, go next door. We don't want to give this place a bad name." She loved to spend time with the family and friends, and she always liked to party. Another Mona quote was, "Any excuse for a party." Whether it was the 4th of July get-togethers, birthdays, anniversaries, it didn't matter. She was always up for a good time. She would always have her 1 or 2 Diet Cokes with brandy, and never more in the late years, because she always said she didn't have enough days on the earth for a hangover. Prior to that, I think we all know she spent probably a little too much time at the Vermilion Club. Is when I was 15, probably 17, I got a call from the bartender to come pick up my grandma and my mother. I walked in the door, she slid off the bar stool and almost onto the floor, and all she said was, "You damn kid," which was also one of her favorite quotes. Looking back, she had a great life. She raised a great family, and she'll be missed, but she won't be forgotten. And this is the day for her to remember all the good times. Thanks.
Well, 2 things will become pretty evident. I'm not a speech writer. I'm not a speech writer nor a public speaker, which is pretty evident now. But I love my aunt. She was my favorite aunt. Part of it was, like was pointed out, you could talk to her about anything, and she was non-judgmental. You would understand her feelings for or against, but she wouldn't judge you for them. I remember the earliest visits to the family house in Evelyn. There were two plaques she had in there that always struck me. One was, "The opinions expressed by the husband of this household are not necessarily those of the management." Which worked out really well because they never argued, apparently, so that worked out wonderfully for them. The other one was, "This is my kitchen, and if you don't believe it, just start something." And if you knew her, I wouldn't ever start anything. But it's also the being able to talk to her, and Royal and Mona were the first adults, relative or not, that accepted me as an adult when I transitioned from child to adult, in my late teens, early 20s. They were both marvelous. Royal taught me how to wire a house. And I ended up working for 30 years in building trades. Not as an electrician, but nevertheless, the patience they showed to help me. Well, actually, I was pressed into labor when he wired my father's cabin. So I was his apprentice, as it were. So I was forced to work with the tools and gain the confidence of how to do something, how to do it right, and how to maintain that over time. There's just too much. I don't know how many of you know the story of the entry road to the cabin. When the neighbors surveyed had a surveyor come in and redo the survey, and it turns out that the road wandered off into the neighbor's property, and that I don't know if they wanted compensation or the control of the road exactly or what, But Mona instead petitions that since it was there before all other roads, it should be a county road in her name. So yes, now there's a Jarnstrom Road that you can Google, and it is an official county road for that. It says a lot about someone that that's their third option, say. I don't know that it would be any one of my options, but it seemed innate to her that no, I'm not gonna go down without a fight. You want that property, you better be able to sustain your claim, which they didn't, and she succeeded, and that's a good example of, I think, her whole life. She grabbed moments by the throat and persevered. I think beyond most people's expectations. And I will miss her. I will miss her a lot. I have no way of ending this. So, thank you for listening, and Renee's cueing me to my seat.
Renee, do you want me to speak now? No. Renee cued me to come. I'm not a relative. My name is Karen Doyle. I'm not a relative. My name is Karen Doyle. I'm a close friend of Renee, Don, and Mona's. I first met Renee when Jeff, at age 5, forgot his bat at the park. So she looked up who's playing in that park next, and she called me to go find the bat. So I found the bat, but I couldn't find Renee for the whole summer because she was in Lake Vermilion. So I had the bat. We finally got together, and we've been doing this ever since. So we would take the kids to the ski lodge on a Friday or Saturday night, and then we'd go out and have dinner and dancing with Don and Renee and my husband and Mona. And for years later, she thanked me for allowing her to come as a single woman, and I just didn't mean anything to me. I thought that was just fine. But she'd been alone a long time, and people didn't always invite her. In 2010, my husband died in September. In January of 11, Renee's husband died at a very young age. And in the summer of 2011, Mona's husband died. So by the end of the summer, I said to Renee, get in the car, we're going to Florida. You're not healing. So she said, well, how long will I stay? And I said, Thanksgiving's awfully fun. You go to the beach in the morning and you have turkey in the afternoon. So by Thanksgiving, Mona was there too. So the three of us traveled around in Venice, Florida, back and forth for about 4 years. Traveled everywhere together. She called me her fifth daughter. She might say that to everybody, I don't know. But I took it as a blessing. By 2015, they bought their own place in Bonita Springs because it was warmer, and also because all of her daughters wanted to come and visit our house, and I didn't have enough bedrooms. So I miss Mona's sense of humor, as you've all heard about, and her words of wisdom. One of them was, nobody ever promised easy. And one of the ones I like best is, and you'll understand, is never pass up a good bathroom. She always said that. Rest in peace, Mona. We love you. And we'll always have you in our hearts.
Linda. Linda, you have one more.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry.
That's okay.
All right, I'm Maddie, one of Grandma's 3 grandsons, sometimes called favorite. Mona J was a great lady. I wouldn't be here today or be alive today, literally, if it weren't for her. After Jeff took me as a piggy bank and put a penny in my mouth, and she tipped me upside down and smacked me and came back to life. So. She was a tough lady, could arguably say the toughest. Some of my fondest memories with her would be when she's dealing with the grandkids, and her favorite term was, "you damn kids," whenever there was trouble going on. She taught me how to fish when I was young, sit in the cabin, tying hooks all the time, all day when the weather was bad. Taught me how to play cribbage as well, sit in the cabin when it's bad out and play that with her. Painting the cabins in the buildings. She taught me how to paint. I still paint quite a bit today, so I learned a skill, and she got cheap labor. Listening to her words of wisdom as she would sit on the bench or down by the lake, drinking her daily brandy diet. Cutting the grass with her wide assortment of different lawnmowers that she acquired because the carburetor would die, and then my dad would fix it, so we had every color you could think of. Sleeping at the cabin, sleeping in late, waking up to the words, "Get up, Grandma needs help. There's time to sleep when you're dead." I used that on her as she got older too. Clock in the cabin, there's a clock above the table in the cabin that we tried to upgrade over the years, and we got nixed on that quite a few times. She would always say that clock stays, so go to the cabin later, you'll see it. See, she loved the cabin. It was always a topic of conversation, and I'm proud to be her grandson, and we'll miss her always.
My name is Rosie Zimmerman, and I loved that lady. She was absolutely wonderful. We had a house in Britt, and I belonged to TOPS, which is Take Off Pound Sensibly, which I didn't know. Anyways, I went to the TOPS group that there was in Virginia. Well, there wasn't a person there that would talk to me. I mean, they were just very cliquey. So then we bought a house on Lake Vermilion, and my husband said, "Well, are you going to go to TOPS in Virginia or in Tower?" And I said, "Oh, I really don't know. I had such a bad experience in Virginia that I didn't want to repeat that." So I decided that I would go to TOPS. So I came to, they meet in the basement of the Emmanuel Lutheran. And so I went to go weigh in for the very first time. And Mona was our weigher. And she said to me, "Are you finished?" And I thought, oh, here we go again. And I said, "No, that's all right, we'll keep you anyway." That was Mona. That's my story, but I had to tell you what a wonderful, wonderful person she was. I miss her. Takes me time. It's okay.
And I'm daughter number 2. I'm Renee, and I just thought I'd give a little bit of a summary. You know, you always wonder how our lives live. And I thought I would just tell you that my mom was born and raised in Eveleth, and the family had a cabin on Ely Lake, and she talked about going out there and swimming and canoeing, and she had a fabulous childhood. her parents owned the dime store in Evelyn, which was the Ben Franklin store. And she said the best part of that is that her father believed that she could do what was needed in that store, and he sent her to Duluth as a buyer, and even gone to the cities with him. And that started her career, and knowing what she wanted to do is to go into business. After she graduated, she spent 1 year at Evelyn Junior College. Then the next year, she went to Duluth Business School, and then, of course, she met my dad through a mutual friend. And to think back in those days in the 40s, to have gone on to college and go to school, you had to have a lot of gumption, because most people just went on to work. After my dad and mom got married, Ramona was born. 18 months later, I came, and then was Lindy about 4.5 years later. And I just think in our childhood how they bought the Evelyn Methodist Church parsonage. Now, this was a big old church they were going to tear down in Evelyn, and instead they had Dodo McGregor's company pick it up and move it onto a lot with a brand new basement. And my mom and dad gutted the first level and redid the whole thing, and we ended up with a beautiful big home back in those days. In our youth, my mom and dad believed you're young only once, so enjoy your youth. Once it's gone, you can't get it back. And you know, when you think about that, it is true. I mean, we'd all love to go back to childhood. And I think of all the things Mom did with us. Because she had the dime store in Ordering, she bought us skates and skis and hockey sticks and baseball gloves. There was no gender deal. You know, we had dolls, but that wasn't our thing. We were outside skating, and she would take us, and because we had a big 10-passenger station wagon that my dad used